a podcast about amazing people from an incredible state. Join Mike Broomhead for Amazing Arizonans, presented by Resolution Copper. Copper is essential to Arizona's economy and to America's future. Learn more at resolutioncopper.com.
Amazing Arizonans, and I am going to geek out for this conversation because it has to do with food and one of the best chefs in the country, maybe the world, Mark Tarbell. I've been waiting for this for so long.
Thank you, Mike. And I've been waiting to get on your show for a long time.
I am such an amateur cook, but nothing makes me happier.
Well, one thing that everyone's an expert at is eating. So if you're cooking and eating, you are now a chef.
So does it bug you being a professional that there are so many people that are just popping up with recipes and social media?
No, I think it's wonderful. I think the joy that people get from being in the kitchen and sharing their food or sharing their food on social media or whatever is part of the human experience. So I don't think there should be any barrier to people saying I'm a chef or I'm a cook or whatever. I don't think there should be a barrier. It's for everyone. We all need to eat. And then if we can make a necessity an elegant thing, which people are doing, it's even better.
You know, everything I do is very amateur, but the biggest response I ever get on anything I post on social media is cooking.
Yeah.
And I just put up simple things that I make and kind of this is what I do different. And I have a couple of friends in town that are chefs and getting their feedback because you guys are the pros. There's a big difference between even a good amateur cook and a professional.
Yeah, at times, I think that what I'll say to you, Mike, is you cook from the heart. I can tell. I know you, and you cook from the heart. And that is the most important ingredient in any dish. So being a professional chef, you could actually be perfectly boring, but perfect. But when you're cooking from the heart at home, something that you put your time, care, and attention in, and it means something to you, it always tastes better. So, and I mean that with sincerity. I would tell that to anybody, and anyone who's listening. Some of the best meals I've had are home-cooked meals.
One of the guests we had in here was former Governor Fife Symington.
Yes.
And his transition from the political world to culinary school to loving it so much that he now has a culinary school.
Yes, he does.
It's got to be something. I mean, obviously, there's something romantic in the food we grew up with, right?
Yeah. Everyone has taste memory, and it has to do with ties to emotion. And sometimes like for my mom's pot roast or her mac and cheese, for example, and we serve both at my restaurant. But the pot roast is edible. Sorry, Mom. No, but my memories of her doing it and my memories of sitting at the table and I'm salivating, that memory is way more powerful than the actual event was probably way back when.
I was born in Northeast Ohio, and we left in 1977 or 78. So I was about 10 years old when we left. And my grandmother was from Poland, and she would make fresh punchkis, and she would make pierogies on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
To this day, I remember those experiences.
Yeah.
It was the most exciting time because I lived right behind them and walking in and seeing the entire kitchen table covered in flour.
Yeah.
And it would just, she'd make dumplings and she was just a great cook.
Yeah.
And those are some of the memories that live with me now 40 years later.
Yeah. And that is something that we all share. We share some taste memory of some sort like that. And by the way, that was a time for your grandma to be able to connect with you at a very human level.
Yeah.
And you were young and she was probably a little older. And sometimes it's hard for generations to connect, but everyone connects through food, I believe. I believe everyone connects through food.
But what is it that makes you able to do that, or anybody, but you especially, able to do it? When you say your mom's pot roast or mac and cheese, how do you make it restaurant quality where people leave their homes to come and have you cook it for them?
Good. What I'm doing, a lot of what I've done at Tarbell's over the year, because I was trained in a Michelin 1-star, Michelin 3-star. I in Paris, went to culinary school. So I had very high level, what I call it's very articulate. It's like taking tweezers out and making food that's just a work of art. But when I opened Tarbell's, it was all about what I wanted to eat and what were taste memories to me. And so with my mom's pot roast, to answer your question, I took all my French technique, which is demi-glace, which it takes 4 days to make, and it's very, very difficult, and there's no additives. And I take a shoulder of beef and I roast it in the oven overnight for 9 hours, with veal stock and aromatic vegetables. So it's all very complicated to create a simple dish. And potatoes, the finest quality, European butter for the potatoes, everything, right? organic vegetables. So it's built, it looks simple, but it actually is quite difficult and complicated and time consuming to make.
One of the things and why I have such respect for what you do and such a love for it is there are many people that are smart business analytical people, and there are artists. You have to be both. You have to be a shrewd businessman, but at the same time, the creativity you're talking about, both have to be, if you're going to be successful, both have to be strong.
Yes. And I was blessed that I didn't have a trust fund or partners when I opened, and I didn't want partners and don't have them at Tarbell's. I had to make it. I sold everything. My 401k, I sold my car.
Wow.
I moved into a friend's house and slept in an extra room on the floor. I didn't have any furniture. And I got a Ford van that I drove for like the first 3 years I was open. So I didn't have a choice. I probably am comfortable in the artistic side, but I had to make it. You know, I had no fallback. You know, I had no fallback, and I still don't.
What year was that?
So that was in 1994. So it's 31 years. And so I wake up every day like it's opening for the first time. I take nothing that I've done. I've been showered with attention and awards and TV and all that stuff. And none of that, I don't, with all due respect for the people that have honored me, but that isn't on my mind. I just know that I'm opening today for the first time, and I better make it.
That's
31 years later.
So, because I moved here almost 31, it'll be 31 years in February. Yeah. And I've seen crazy changes in this valley, growth. But your industry, this town has become known as a foodie town, and finally. But is that good for you? I mean, so it's not about the competition that's out there. You like it.
Well, I think rising tides float all boats, and quality, it drives quality too. You know, it drives me to be working harder every day, because there's some tremendously talented chefs in town and great restaurants and lots of options. I think it's wonderful, and I've actually encouraged it and promoted it my whole career. And I do a TV show on PBS that sends people to other restaurants. My accountant is like, that isn't very smart.
Yeah, it's not smart.
But, you know, the industry's been good to me, and I want to help anyone I can to elevate, you know, what's happening in Arizona.
Speaking of TV, how many Emmys have you won?
5.
5 Emmys.
Yes. You
were inducted into the Culinary Hall of Fame in Arizona twice.
Yes.
Once for your cooking, the other for your media.
Yeah.
So you've been recognized for both.
Yes.
What do you think of the Gordon Ramsays, the people that have gone international like he has?
You know, I think that that's wonderful. I think it's elevated our business and more attention. And let's be honest, it's entertainment.
Sure it is.
They're selling entertainment. It happens to be cooking. And they have a character. I've met him only a couple of times. I know most all the top chefs and TV people. I've only met Gordon, I think, 2 or 3 times. And he's lovely, you know, as a person. And I know that I think probably when he was cooking, he might have been pretty vocal and pretty crazy. I've worked with those people. I maybe at one point when I was young was like that. But I think now it's for entertainment. I think he's actually rather nice. You know, I don't know that. I can't imagine he's screaming at everyone all the time.
But he does have to have the qualifications. You can't make that part of it up.
Well, to be in the entertainment food side, you don't need to be that great a chef. You have to be a good presenter.
Okay.
I think first and foremost, and have something that attracts people. Like, you know how it is, Mike. You know, TV either likes you or don't. I mean, so, you know, you either are attached to the audience or you don't, and a lot of these people do. And some of them are also very good.
When you look at some of the names here in the Valley, are you close with the other chefs? Do you guys share ideas? Do you talk about concept?
I'm there always for them. When it's funny, we meet at charities or we meet doing events for people or whatever, or collaborations, and that's when we can socialize. It's kind of the funny thing. And then we go back into our corners, and maybe if we have a night off or not, we go to a dive bar down the street that no one knows us. And, you know, this is kind of typical. And I do as much as I can go out and support. And that's what I love about the TV show. It forces me to go to 30 restaurants a year when I normally would just go with my wife and hide in a corner at a dive bar and eat a burger on my day off. So the answer is yes. I support them. I love the chefs in town. I'm always looking for ways to elevate them or refer business to them. And we do have a lovely group of people. in town here.
When I was young, I got my first job at 12 years old, and I got a job in a Chinese restaurant.
Cool.
Under the table, wasn't allowed to be working. And then I worked in a Mexican restaurant for a while where I learned to cook. And obviously no chefs, but it was a chain restaurant owned by Ponderosa called Casa Lupita, who's not in existence anymore. But I fell in love with the business of interacting with the public when I was out in the front of the house. Mm-hmm. But I loved cooking. I remember I cooked a lunch buffet. So it had to be good and had to be fast. And I don't know how much skill was involved, but I loved watching people eat what I cooked. Is that where it is? Is that the basis of it? Is that you just...
Well, it's kind of the basis of it. It's right at the crux of it. For me, it's the most nerve-wracking time when that dish goes over the slide and it's in front of someone and I'm like, I hope they like it. And that never goes away. There's a high level of insecurity, I would say, around that. Because if you really are creating something, and this is when now I cook for special events and charities and in private homes and stuff. So it's still when I'm designing something and it's maybe a little fancier, or it's got my heart and soul in it, I push it across and I'm waiting to hope it works.
Yeah.
I hope they like it. So it's a bit nerve-wracking.
But do you think, and this is the difference, if you were to give me a recipe, for the most part, I could follow it until it gets really technical, and I could cook whatever that is. Yeah. And I do that a lot. There's a difference between that and creating a new dish with a new twist that is interesting, and it's also at a price point that people can afford. So all of that has to go into what you do. When did you know you had that?
Well, I didn't have a choice, so I'm blessed with the gift of ADD, and so I used to think I found the kitchen, but it found me, and I'm going to explain it really simply. It was by a doctor that explained it to me, but adrenaline is a natural Ritalin for those that have this gift. I call it a gift.
Yeah,
I have to. Anyway, and so there's high levels of adrenaline in the kitchen, and so I was always calm, very calm. I can see everything. It's where I'm comfortable. It's where I'm happy, and so. And the restaurant's a chaotic business. Yeah. So I actually am more agitated when things are calm. So
I think we're similar in that way. I didn't realize that, but you're 100% right.
And so folks with our gift, you basically make trouble when things are calm, and sometimes big trouble. You create chaos so that you now feel good again. That's a natural inclination. So I think to answer your question, I'm an experiential learner. It was hard for me to read. I've actually never read a recipe when I was in school. I understood things and I watched them and then I would be able to do it, but I couldn't follow the book.
Right.
And so that's how I'm designed. So I've had to force to learn how to do it without following a step-by-step recipe through intuitive and all the senses, right? And so I love being there because it's a great sense of freedom for me not to use recipes. I've written recipes sitting on my couch. I wrote a book for someone as a ghostwriter, 70 recipes. It took me 10 days, and I wrote them all down, never touching a stove. And I went to a proofer, a test kitchen, and they only had 5 questions. I mean, wow. I'm not bragging. It sounds like it, but that's the way my wine works.
Right.
I can tell you how to do it. I just can't read it myself.
What's fascinating about it is, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but for me, I loved being in the back of the house and seeing how things got done. So when I started out as a prep cook in the morning, having to make the tortilla chips, and then first thing I had to do was make the salsa because the salsa went into everything else. So you're making gallons and gallons of salsa for the day and rolling the chimichangas and rolling the burritos. I liked that part of it. I liked the process.
Yes.
So it's different as a cook now because you're doing somebody else's process. Yeah. But I enjoyed that so much. Yeah. That it was so much fun for me to put that together and see how it's built. Yes,
because it's something called hyperfocus. So, I can do the same thing over and over again if I'm interested in it.
Right.
Forever. Like I've been opening and closing the restaurant doors for 31 years. For some reason, I'm just not bored with it at all. I find it fascinating. I don't know why.
So the difference between your restaurant, the first restaurant you have, and the other locations you have, the things at the airport, do you have people that help you come up with the concepts?
Not really. I mean, the airports, no, because it was born out of our concepts. But,
right.
And the other things, I would like to do concepts, but at Gertrude's, which we just took Desert Botanical Garden over, that's going to remain Gertrude's, as it should. She was the founder of the garden, and the restaurant's already there. We're just coming in and bringing our team and people to make it ours. But really, we're there to serve mostly the tourists that are coming to Arizona, and do it in a way that really represents the garden well and also the valley well. That's our mission, period. End of story. But yes, I love concepts. I've done concepts. I always wanted to be a Sam Fox. I admire him greatly and know him and very friendly with him. And, but, you know, we'll see what happens over the next 5 or so years. You know, Mike, I have a lot of energy. You never know.
Do you catch yourself being critical, being a critic?
Of my food? Or
of other,
no.
When you go somewhere.
I used to drive myself crazy.
Do you dissect a menu? When you dissect a dish, what's in it?
Well, I do at a certain level. My mind's always working in taste, flavor, texture, visual, and all that stuff. But I put it at a separate little box in my mind so I didn't make myself crazy. So I need to be able to enjoy going out, right? And I'm even tasting water and analyzing it all the time. Everything I'm tasting, and I think about it. I think other waters I've had. I'm thinking what's in this water, or what's the minerality, or I can taste this soap or whatever. So it's a taste flavor thing for me. But I shut it off, and I get my inspiration. I mean, I could think of look around here and go, oh, I'm thinking of that dish that might look like that sound box over there, and then something happens or it doesn't.
When you look at how the other people that are of your generation here in town, but what about the young people that are opening restaurants? And do you ever, people seek you out for advice?
They do. I mean, I open myself up in time every week for doing that kind of thing. Happy to help. And I also talk to investors and people that have kids that want to get in the business or whatever it might be. And I'll be honest, Mike, a lot of the time, 90%, I'm trying to talk them out of it. Or tell them the real problems where I see it, that may be a challenges, things they might have not have thought of. Because there's a romance of the business, and then there's the reality.
Right.
And the romance is 7% of the real business, and people get attached to that. And that's just a small part of what we do. And then occasionally there's people that in my business, I've trained a lot of people that I thought had it, and they've gone on to do well. At Tarbell's, they've gone out and done well, and then I support them at any point in their career. And then there's people that I really think have it. A person that really gets it, they're going to be fine. And then I help them in any way I can. I was
back in my previous life when I was a contractor, I was an electrical contractor. I was doing some work for Jan Diotri.
Yeah.
And her mom.
Love her.
And her mom. They're just such great people. Yeah. And I was working on a piece of equipment for her mom that had needed a switch or something was broken, electrical part in one of her cooking equipment. And I was sitting on the floor and she was watching me. And I remember saying to Jan's mom, I would love to open a restaurant someday. And she smacked me in the side of the head and said, don't be stupid.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was hilarious for people that love the industry so much. But you're right. No one knows, you can't possibly know what you're really getting yourself into.
It's pure insanity. Like, I hate to say it because it's my industry, but it's really, it's designed to be challenging in every way. And more so, I think, over time, everything's a threat. Everything is a competition. Everything could possibly have an influence on our business. So news, it could be anything,
I remember
World Series.
I was the electrical contractor that used to do the work at the Royal Palms Resort. And I would catch myself standing in the kitchen at T. Cook's and just watching, just captivated by how what looked like chaos, but this well-oiled machine was turning out such amazing food.
Yeah. It's like a ballet.
Yeah.
It can be.
When you have the right team.
Or it can be like screaming, yelling, and throwing.
Yeah. When you think about the industry and the young people that are out there, have you ever looked at something and thought, I wish I had done that? Not a concept, but a dish. I wish I had.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much talent. I mean, and I've been blessed and I've been able to eat all over the world. So I've been thoroughly blown away at times and just not wish I did it, more like appreciate that they did. I think everyone has to speak their own voice. And if you copy other people in anything in life, I think it's always going to be just a little less than.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick story. Like, I used to have a paper book of all our recipes, back in the kitchen at Tarbell's. And at one point, someone had left my restaurant to go open their own and had permanently borrowed that book. And unfortunately, the restaurant didn't last very long. But what I learned was it doesn't matter if everyone has your book, or knows your recipes or knows everything about it, they still have to do it themselves. And what's best, and I even told this person, I said, it's better you try your own and not try to copy, because people are going to connect at some very core level with what you do from the heart.
When you were going through your training and looking at the places that you have trained is spectacular, did you take a little bit from each place to make it your own? Is that how it works?
I think the answer has to be yes, but I don't have any. I've never been transactional about how I gather experience. It's more like, it kind of goes into the collection of how I felt about it or how it moved me. But I've never literally taken a design piece or that I'm aware of,
right,
or a recipe or anything from anybody else that I'm aware of. I mean, obviously, there's nothing new in the world.
Right.
But let me just be clear: there is nothing I could do if I worked another 5,000 years that would be new in culinary. It's just how I view it, or I bring something back from 5,000 years ago.
Something you interpret,
and then I do it my way. But I'm sure someone else has done it.
One of the people that's been a guest here, and that's why I talk about what you do as art in my mind, is a man named Randall Hedden. Now, Randall is an artist, and he is known all over the country, and he does these portraits that look alive, and musicians and celebrities, and he does speed painting, but he does that as part of what he does. The other work he does is absolutely incredible, and it jumps off the canvas, and he has such a large following. And this is where you're right about the artwork. You go online and look up speed painting. You go online and you look up musician painting or whatever. There's tons of people out there doing it, but you can pick his out the minute you see one. And it's the same with you can tell who the chef is a lot of times by how they've made a dish that others make, but not the same.
Exactly. Like pot roast. I call it Scotch beef. The French call it daube de boeuf. Mine is truly a daube de boeuf, which is more of a French way to do it. So it's elevated, but it's still the same thing. It's all the same.
Well, it's not all the same.
Well, yes. I mean, look, our job is not to mess it up. I think as chefs, we take something that has been known to be great forever, and our inclination is, let me put a little twist on it. And I always, not that this is a bad thing, but mac and cheese for me is mac and cheese, right?
Right.
But if it has, truffles and, grilled smoked sable, and it's something else, but it's not mac and cheese to me. It's not mac and cheese. Yeah.
When you look at your success, and you said every day I'm opening it for the first time, so you've never kind of sat back and thought, look what, this is...
Never. No. I'm shocked I'm sitting here with the famous Mike here.
Oh, jeez. I know you've cooked for some of the biggest names in the world.
Yeah.
And so that part of it, but you still don't feel the sense of security.
No, I always feel like I could have done better when I was there. It's true. I don't understand how it happened, but I think, I don't understand how it happened. But I've cooked for presidents and, criminals and dictators and rock stars and movie stars and a queen once. And, I don't really think about it at all. Unless someone reminds it. Thanks for reminding me. I guess I did do that. Because it is just one night. It's one moment. It's not going to make your career, and it's not going to make your restaurant better. So, it happens, and it's a great honor. I've grown to appreciate that I'm fortunate, but it doesn't change me, and it isn't, in the end of the day, it doesn't mean all that much,
Do you have regular, how many years, when you go back and you think people I've had as customers, how far back do they go?
We still have some that are from the beginning. They were 2 when they started, but but we do. I meant that. That was a bad joke. Yeah. But we do still have some from the beginning, and there are generational shifts. If you're blessed enough to have a restaurant around a long time, one of the things is, it changes. There's always changes in the world. There's changes in the market, and there's changes in customers. People move in town and out of town.
When you look at how everything changes, and if you don't change with it, you end up getting left behind in many industries. And I'm guessing here, but the way people look at food is different, and healthier options and cooking healthier, vegan options and vegetarian options. Do you change with those things, or do you want the consistency that people know when they come through your doors, they're going to get what they expect? With
health, it's always underlying for us. We want to be healthy, and what is healthy changes in popular sentiment. A lot. There's a lot of trends and fads and what is healthy and what isn't. Some like eggs were unhealthy for a while and now they're healthy again.
Yeah, the high cholesterol, they kept,
what I try to do is just have integrity in what we do and not have additives and not have anything, and to the best of our ability to buy really great.
So they call clean. It's just clean
sourcing, but it looks like like pot roast wouldn't be healthy, but if it's pure butter and it's great potatoes and great beef and everything's great, it should be okay. I'm not a doctor, but I think it's probably okay. And to answer your question, yes, I do watch, and I'm either ahead of things, I'm looking for things because it makes sense to me, or I'm behind. But I'm always paying attention. And I'm always, first of all, anyone wants anything, and we have it. If we have a carrot and they want carrot soup, it's going to happen.
Right.
So we're there to serve no matter why their dietary preferences are what they are. I'm there to serve. So I find it's our job to do that, and that's our role to do that, and to take that stress away from someone so they can get it done and get it done well at my restaurant. And I have a great team that says yes all the time to that. So to answer your question, there's a part of it, if I may say, that doesn't change. Like, we've always tried as a team to create home runs, and sometimes they're home runs that last for 30 years. And the challenge then is I'm making the same thing for 30 years.
Right.
But when you take it off the menu, there's an outcry. So I half my menu is things that change with season and half is favorites.
It's interesting you say that because you think about Dominic's and people talk about the butter cake.
Yeah.
Or, you've got the lobster mashed potatoes, the lobster mac and cheese, what the Mastros have done with Steak 44 and Ocean 44. There are things that people are known for. And the consistency, I think, is what people are looking for. But isn't there the danger, and maybe that's what you're talking about, that it becomes stagnant?
There is a danger. I mean, I think there's a core that doesn't move very much. What people say they will eat certain things, but hey, we're a steak town. Let's face it, right? So that's probably not going to move very quickly, and maybe never. That it will always be people that really eat steak, and a lot of people. So, but there are things that latch, like, for example, that lobster mac and cheese. For them to take it off would be very silly. Because it has an emotion. People have an emotional attachment to it. Can you get lobster mac and cheese a lot of places? Probably. Doesn't matter. That's where they think to get it, right? So we have to be very cognizant of what do we do that has that same attachment. Right. And we don't change those. Although I did once.
What'd you do?
I changed my whole menu. It was October 19th of 2007, somewhere around then. And I literally changed everything on the menu in one day, with no announcement to my customers. It was the worst thing I ever did.
Did they actually say to you, what are you doing?
Oh my God, they thought I lost my mind. And I did, but I changed it back like within 3 to 4 or 5 days, but it was crazy. But that was that ADD, like, creative side of me is like, I'm sick of cooking all this stuff. I'm going to do this. This is what I want to do. And it was all great stuff. It just wasn't Tarbell's.
Yeah, right. And that's the
open
difference,
another
right?
restaurant and do it. That'd be fine. But, I tried to do it in a place that had already established, what it was.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite either dish or a favorite way to cook?
Personally, the favorite dish is all mood related and seasonal related. So, but I guess if I were to say one thing, I often say this, would be a perfectly roasted chicken, and in particular from a town in France called Poulet de Bresse. It's called Poulet de Bresse, which is Grand Cru chicken. It's epically tasty, and have it perfectly roasted with some really, really great potatoes that were done with clarified French butter, crispy but delicious, and then haricots verts, which are skinny green beans, tossed in butter and shallots. That would be an ideal dish for me. And it's super simple, but done well, it's pretty epic. So.
I don't know why I'm going to tell you this because it's not a comparison, but I just recently, one of the things I made was chicken soup.
Oh, I love it.
I do too, but so what I always do is I cheat like everybody else does. I get the rotisserie chicken. Well, I went in and it was early enough in the day where the rotisserie chickens weren't out. So I bought a fresh chicken and I baked the chicken. And it made a really big difference.
Yes. And
I thought that's the difference between fresh garlic and jarlic sometimes that a chef can see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I learned by experience that the extra step makes all the difference. And if you really are trying to do something as good as you can, then you don't cut corners when you know not to cut corners.
Right.
Because I still don't know what I don't know.
Right. We're all there. But garlic, that's a passionate subject for me. The garlic, never use it ever, ever, ever. It's what gives people, don't ever do it if you love someone that lives with you.
Right.
For sure, because it's going to give you all the problems. But with garlic, like even for me, not only just cutting it with a knife is important, but a very sharp knife because you don't want to bruise it.
Right.
It's the oxygen, it becomes oxidized, and that's what creates the aroma and the issues that come with garlic. And garlic's very strong. It has to be cut fresh and used immediately. I think it's a very strong seasoning. People think it's part of the Holy Trinity. Depends what you want. If you want something that has a dominant flavor, and you're going to leave it somewhat fresh or lightly sauteed, you need to understand this is a garlic dish that may have some tomatoes in it because it's dominant.
How much do you place a responsibility on yourself to train the people in your kitchen?
Great. But, also I've had people that have worked for me, some for 27 years that are, I would say, very much better than I am. And then I have my main chef who we love, Adrien de Leon. He's been with me now, I think, 13 or 14 years. And he is very talented and knows everything. And, once they are at that point, they get to do what they want. Now, if we want to collaborate, we do. If he wants editing on a dish, I'm happy to do it. If I have input, I'll be happy to give it to him. But it's way more of a collaboration.
But when you get a young person that just has a passion for it, that just they show up on time, they do what they're asked.
Love it. And it happens. And it's great. Happening a lot now. I think that's food TV that brings a lot of people in too.
Out in the East Valley, there is one of the trade schools, East Valley Institute of Technology, EVIT.
Love it.
They have got a culinary program.
Yep.
And I know the superintendent and I know the board members, and I've been out there quite a few times. And to watch young people be so excited about that, and to have leaders in the industry training them and being able to handpick some of these kids. So here I started again at 15 years old. I was learning at a Mexican restaurant that was a chain restaurant, different than when you're being trained by a chef and you see a spark in a young person and you think, I want to see what this kid does in 10 years.
Yes, I've been a huge supporter of them. Haven't done something with them for about 5 years, but I would be, if they asked, I would do it in a minute. Great program. Fantastic program. Right. And I was deeply involved for the last 32 years with CCAP, Careers Through Culinary Arts program, and I was on the national board for the last 4 years. And that has 12,000 high school students in Arizona. Wow. Like 67 high schools. Yeah. And that does the same thing, but in a very broad statewide way. They're amazing. And just to see what it does to kids. We just did our annual event, the Harvest Moon at the Phoenician on last Friday. And these kids are amazing. It changes their lives.
For me, when it was the trade at 18 years old, when I stepped into a construction site as an electrical apprentice, within a very, very short period of time, I could see myself leading in that. Does that make sense? That I was going to be a journeyman. I was going to be a supervisor. I ended up being a business owner. Yeah. I would imagine for a lot of these kids, when the light switch goes on and they can picture themselves in the chef's coat, leading a brigade, leading a team, that's got to be rewarding for you.
Well, it is. It's incredibly rewarding. And it comes with a certainly big responsibility because it is a challenging life, to choose the life we've chosen. And there is no certainty it will be successful.
Yeah, no nights off, no weekends, no holidays.
At that young age, like it did with you, you lit up about something, and now you're lit up about everything. Yeah. This is what we hope happens. Mm-hmm. So not everyone we train through CCAP will go on to be a chef. And we know this. In fact, maybe only 40%. But the other 60% worked in teams. They competed regionally and nationally. They got scholarships. They were taught how to work as a team and with other people, and they were taught math skills, all kinds of skills that will benefit them throughout their life. And whether they become an accountant or whatever they end up doing, they have that light.
Let's talk about TV, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Because I could, there are people, it's funny, because I have friends and I know people, my mom is one of them, that watches remodeling shows on TV. Mm-hmm. And I would rather... I'd rather stand in the hot sun than watch a remodeling show.
I completely get that.
But if it's cooking, I don't care who it is. I'm kind of enamored by it. What gave you the bug to do it? And
TV?
Yeah.
I was asked.
But when did you say, yeah, I'm going to cut enough time out to make this work?
Well, again, so let's go back to the beginning. It was actually with Eddie Matney, who was a great chef back in the 80s and not, he's still a great chef. A friend of mine asked me to come do TV with him in the 98 or something like that. I just moved here and I just did it because I thought I was helping promote the hotel I was working for at the time. And then when I opened, it was a month or so after I opened Channel 3, which was the #1 show at the time, the morning show. The guys who ran it came in and said, we'd like you to be our chef. I was like, on what? And they're like, on the TV morning show. And I was like, well, yeah, but I'm kind of busy, so I can't do it every day, but I can probably do it twice a month, or maybe 4 times a month. And they're like, great. So I was for 13 years. And that was just play for me. Like, for some reason, it wasn't hard for me. I liked it. And I loved the team down there. And the Lewises were great owners. And they let us do anything we wanted. It was crazy. We did so many fun things. I won't get into it. But we really had a lot of fun. And it was, and now I was in it. So I just got called. Someone saw me on TV on 3 and then got me on Iron Chef because they were in a hotel here. The guy that started.
What was that experience like?
That was intense. I'd never seen the show, barely had heard of it, and it was the #1 show on cable at the time. But one of my chefs once said, "You got to do this show if you ever can." And I was like, "Never going to happen." Didn't listen. But when he was on the phone with me, and this is a true story, he was staying at the Sanctuary, and he's like, "I created the show called Iron Chef. You might have heard of it." And I was like, yeah, sure. I was being polite. I didn't really know. And he goes, "I'd love you to be on it. I saw you on TV. I think you'd be great." And I said, "Sure." At first, I was like, I was going to say no. Yeah. And then I was remembering that chef told me, "Hey, I should try that." So I was like, "Sure, I'll do it, whatever." And then I watched it, and I was like, what did I just agree to do?
What did I just agree to do?
Yeah, so I went deep, as anyone like you might. I went deep, and I bought all the equipment that was on the KitchenAid stuff. I trained a team. I built a team. We would do it for hours a day and train for 47 minutes, an hour-long competition. And we were fortunate. We won by a lot. We really did. It was just a great day. But there was only a 3% chance we were going to win. The 97% chance of being embarrassed on the top show in the country on network.
Yeah, but it doesn't...
cable.
But you have to give yourself some credit because the skill level, first of all, to be asked. Mm-hmm. They loved your presentation on TV, but the skill level there to be asked. But then the dedication to, say, being asked and being a part of it isn't enough. We're going to go win.
Yeah, I went to win. I really did. And we went to win. Whether it was going to happen or not, we didn't know. But we planned and really trained to win. And we did. So, I was asked to do other things like Bobby Flay's thing, but I looked at the percentages and how people won that. And I was like, it kind of favors him. And he's a friend. And I was like, I declined that, which I shouldn't because it probably would have been good for PR. But I'm actually, in the one way, I'm not proud of it, but I like to win.
Yeah.
And I kind of won't go into something when I think it's a pretty good chance it's not going to happen. If
it's slanted against you, maybe.
In this one, I felt it was a pretty straight competition, and it is for the most part. We're at a disadvantage because we don't work in the kitchen all the time, and they do. But anyway, yeah.
So I want to just touch on this to see if you'll be willing to share a little bit. Food critics. Mm-hmm. What's your opinion?
Well, everyone's a critic. So, now everyone's a critic, which has changed. Right. When I was first open, the newspapers had tremendous power over what made a restaurant and what didn't. Now there's zero power that I can see anywhere. Yeah. There's influencers, and in bigger markets, sometimes they can be helpful or not. But for the most part, what I think is a beauty of what's happened, whether it be Yelp or anything else or OpenTable, any of the places where people can actually review themselves, I think the power has gone back to the most important people, which is the diner. And even though they may not have gone to culinary school, it doesn't really matter. It was either good or it wasn't. And that's really, in the end.
And the experience plays a big role in it as well.
100%. So,
in my hometown, and this might have been a name that was all over the country, but in my hometown, the food critic had a pen name of Jean LeBouf. And no one knew who this person was.
Gene Beef.
Yeah, Gene Beef. And it was hilarious because they were brutal. because they were anonymous.
Yeah.
But you're right. At that time, it was one voice. So if this person goes into your place and has a bad experience, you literally could be shut down because this one person for that moment either waited too long for a table or there was too much salt in their food. Yeah. But that's how much power they carried back then.
I didn't feel it was appropriate because it was one person's opinion and they didn't have any clawback. You couldn't answer to it, right? You couldn't respond to it. And it did have that open or close power. It's really, really true. They would either make a restaurant or break a restaurant. And that isn't fair, because restaurants...
Especially when they're anonymous, when you can't have a conversation with them.
Yeah, before they publish or whatever, or get another chance. And they loved that power. I knew a lot of critics back in the day when that was a thing. I knew them all over the country in New York Times and, San Francisco Chronicle. I knew a lot of them. And I would ask them not to come to my restaurant, frankly. Not that I was scared that it wouldn't go well. There was another side of that. If they gave you a great review, those folks that followed them usually only came once, maybe twice. Yeah. So you thought, I'm going to go buy my Porsche now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be busy like this for 10 years. Nope.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 months. And then it starts to taper off and then you have the Porsche payment.
What would you say to an amateur like me? I would love to go to culinary school someday when I'm done in this business, but I don't know if that's the direction I need to go, but just someone that loves to cook. Mm-hmm. What advice do you give me about being better and maybe even loving it more? What would enhance that experience?
Well,
for me?
It wouldn't. I always think culinary school, if it's a good one, like Fife Symington School up there, ACI, right?
Yeah, Scottsdale.
Arizona Culinary Institute. That's very good. They have a good program. Obviously it's targeted a lot more towards the industry.
Sure.
All that stuff's fine. You can really learn a lot of basics, a lot of knife skills, a lot of stuff. And I think it's fascinating. There's another way, if you're fortunate enough to have some extra money, to go to smaller schools in Italy or in France or in Greece or wherever, even if it's at home, by a grandma who's known to be, bring 4 students in or whatever, and just talk about cannoli or talk about anything. So that I think would be really good. And then eating, or even what I would suggest is talking your way into do a stagiaire or some apprentice program in your favorite restaurant. And if the restaurant's open to it and you're retired and you really want to work and you really are open to it, and I think it's a great way to do it. That's real-time learning, right? Real-time learning. But choose maybe 5 restaurants you admire. Ask them all if you could come in and spend a week. I think that's a thing too.
Well, there's actually a friend, his name is Gio. You may know
Gio
him.
also.
Yeah.
Love Gio.
I do too.
He's the best.
And I told him, and he said, come in, and he's good. He is. He's amazing. Really good. The other thing that I'd like to touch on with you is, what longevity takes.
Yeah.
One of the things I admire about people in the industry is how they literally are working from the ground up. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know Michael that owns Christo's and Alexi's.
I do. Mm-hmm.
So he's become a friend over the years, and he's actually been a guest here talking more about his pathway to citizenship in the U.S. and literally starting out as a waiter and a busboy to become a manager, to become a partner, to become an owner. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, takes real nose to the grindstone. I'm not going to give up.
Yes.
Kind of work.
And that's what it takes to be successful in this business. You have to have that. Because you're going to there's a lot of headwind. You're going to have tough days. You're going to have days you're like wondering, why am I doing this? There's going to be sleepless nights. I mean, I have them all the time, where I'm just blinking at night going, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And
when eggs went through the roof.
Oh yeah, it's everything.
Beef right now.
Yeah.
You can't raise your prices high enough to make up for some of that.
You can't. Yeah, and but it's always going to happen. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. Sugar could go up, everything.
But you still love it.
I still love it because I think I really like a challenge. I think I love the hard. I love hard. I like to be, I get a little bit agitated when things aren't challenging, and this gives it to me every day. This business gives it to me every day.
Is there something that you would be doing if you weren't doing this?
It's interesting you asked that, because I was thinking about that. I truly love playing guitar, and I do it as a hobby, and I've been in bands before and things like that. And I've been blessed to play with a lot of great people. But I don't know that I'd want to do it as a career, because I know how hard they work and how unglamorous that is too. But part of me would be, I'd do that, I think. Or a captain of a charter boat in the islands, a sailboat.
Yeah.
And take people out on, sailing trips.
That's a rough life.
It is a rough life, but I probably would like it.
I had a friend growing up, because I grew up on the Gulf in Southwest Florida. Okay. And I had a friend whose dad was a shrimp boat captain, owned a couple of shrimp boats. Tough. That's brutal. That is work. No joke.
It's brutal work.
It is. So, I always, again, if it were me, I would cook.
Yeah.
I would work in a restaurant. I've said this on the air. I would take a job as a bartender or a waiter. First of all, it's always nicer when you don't have to do it.
Yes.
But I would do that just for the experience. I remember the adrenaline rush of being a 15-year-old kid lying about my age to get a job and being a busboy. They called him an attendant because it was more than just a busboy. And I remember approaching a table with the adrenaline rush. You never knew if they were going to love you or they were going to hate you. And neither mattered. I enjoyed the people that didn't like me as much as I enjoyed the people that did. There's something about that experience of strangers, and you got a very short window to make them happy. I love that.
Yes. Well, I do too. I love, I'm with you, Mike. I love it. And, the truth of the matter is, if I had all of it and I had time, I would be cooking all the time. My love, and a lot of people see me in a lot of different ways. But I started as a chef or a dishwasher, really, and then a cook, and then a chef, and then I went to culinary school. But that's where my happy place is, really. I mean, I like wine, and I know about it, quite a bit about it, but I really am happiest even when I'm washing pots. So we opened this restaurant, Gertrude's, again, down at DBG. There was a couple of days there where I was a pot washer because we didn't have one. So I went down there. I came home. My wife's like, "You're so happy." I'm like, I know I smell, but it was so great. I was washing pots all day. That, being in the kitchen, doing prep, plating, the energy of that, or working on expo, running a line, is where I'm most comfortable and most happy. And if I were really lucky, that's what I do every day. Of course, being a business owner and a chef and at everything else, you don't get to do it.
So would you let me just watch you work someday?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'd love it. We can work together.
Watch your team work. I don't know. See, I don't know.
Let's bang out some prep.
That's where it gets a little.
Oh my gosh, it's not. And the other thing is, yes, there's art behind it, but you're talking about prep. You love doing prep. A lot of it's that. And then young people come in and go, "I want to create dishes." I'm like, yes, but 80% of the work is prepping. Mm-hmm. The same onion, the same way.
Same onion.
For 365 days a year for, the rest of your life.
Yeah, see those 4 boxes of tomatoes? Dice them.
Get at it.
Dice them,
And tomorrow, guess what? 4 more boxes.
4 more boxes every day.
That's being a chef.
Dice the tomatoes, make the salsa so you can grind up the avocados to make the guacamole. Yeah. And then guess what? Tomorrow morning, do it again. But it was, again, I loved it.
Me too. I love that. It just, I get in my meditative place when I'm doing that. I just kind of like drift off, and I like the focus of trying to do it perfect. Nothing's ever perfect, but you try, so that's what you do.
First of all, it's a pleasure to sit down and talk with you. I don't know how many people get an opportunity to spend this much time with you, but the appreciation for the artist that you are, a knowledge of running a small business myself, and knowing the sleepless nights you're talking about when you're looking at the number of employees and the checks you got to write. But also the name you've built and reputation you built for yourself in this town and beyond, but certainly in this town. You are so well respected for how good you are as a chef, but you're equally as respected for being a good man.
Oh, thank you.
I think that is admirable, that if there are a few people that would be entitled to be a little arrogant, you would be one of them, especially in this industry. But you really have such a great reputation, and meeting you, I see why. I think it's terrific.
Well, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. And, I just think, I just feel so fortunate. I can't be anything but grateful. And that word is bantered about a lot, I think. But it does have a deeper meaning in history of, where if you're living in gratitude, it's hard not to, just live in humility. And humus is earth, of course. And it's also a great dish, hummus. I like that too. But.
I appreciate you coming down.
Yeah,
I really, this has been terrific.
Mike. This is awesome.
This is the reason why we have Amazing Arizonans right here. These stories and learning a little bit about a name you've heard and a restaurant you've probably been to. Now you know where it all came from. Thanks again for watching.
Thanks for watching Amazing Arizonans, presented by Resolution Copper. Tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.